common theme you'll find when it comes to casting spells that open stargates in our mind is the idea of a drawing or a picture that comes alive. Eminem has used this a couple of times, like in the Forgot About Dre video, but before that there's a man reading a magazine that has a picture of Eminem in it, and then all of a sudden the picture comes alive. Then in the Toy Soldiers video there are two kids reading a book that comes alive. After this you see Eminem's friend Proof getting shot and dying. A year later this actually happened, so the spell manifested that reality, or at least helped to. So it's the descent of spirit into matter, symbolised by the flaming sword, the cornucopia or the cube, pyramid, stargate. Again, it's the idea of a drawing or a picture coming alive, which acts as a sort of a trigger that prepares the mind for the Stargate spell. Now, I'm guessing I don't really need to tell you what that is on the floor. Clearly, it's the checkered Stargate. If you're honest, I think you will agree there's no reason for that to be there, in the context of the film's story. The robot arm could indicate the coming of the technocratic age, this whole idea of machines replacing human beings, and humans becoming more machine-like, both spiritually and physically, kind of like Darth Vader. They often represent the old man, and that's us, with mannequins. And these mannequins are sacrificed or replaced by the new man, who is transhuman. Here you can see Beyonce's robot arm, and this robot arm has a lot to do with the film Metropolis, which we're going to look at later on. Transhumanism is the elite's idea of illumination, which is to say is alchemy. The fact of the matter is it is a simulation, Ball style, and images like this, and even this from the old Michael Jackson short film Captain EO, released in the year 1986, but no coincidence. Returning to A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4, notice how the Stargate spell begins with the writing from the girl's textbook coming to life. So there's the trigger, followed by the robot arm that grabs the girl. Then the camera pans out from above, revealing that the girl is in the middle of the 0 point of the checkered Stargate. In the very next shot we have this apple, so in other words they're confirming that this is the apple door. Shortly after, Freddy kills the girl right in the middle of the 0 point of the Stargate. So in other words, this is a sacrifice on the checkered Stargate, right underneath our noses. This is a song of quite some interest to me. I'm pretty certain that this is the Antichrist consciousness that I talked about in Appledore, using, to a certain extent, the language of Greek mythology to present itself. And like I said, this is done to gain our consent. So here are the lyrics. We're going to go through some of this and try and decode it. Okay, so to start with, we have the lines, "Fear me, you lord and lady preachers, I descend upon your earth from the skies. I command your very souls, you unbelievers, bring before me what is mine, the 7 seas of rye." What I think is key here is that this thing is telling you what it is straight off the bat. I command your very souls, you unbelievers. Who commands the unbelievers? The Antichrist consciousness. Like it says in the Islamic holy book Hadith, in reference to the Dajjal, or the Antichrist. Only the believers will be able to read the words Kafir inscribed in bold letters on his forehead, and Kafir means unbeliever. As I explained in Appledore, possession by the Antichrist consciousness happens via the third eye. This is why it says the Dajjal will have the kafir on his forehead, which is the place that the third eye is always depicted. What it actually means is that those under the possession of the Antichrist consciousness will be so by their third eye. And the third eye is activated by the 7 chakras, otherwise known as the 7 veils of Isis, which is why the very next line in the song is "Take before me what is mine, the 7 seas of Rye." The 7 seas are the 7 chakras, which are the vibratory levels of your soul. The same thing applies in the rhythmic song Sweet Dreams, where you hear the lines "Travelled the world and the 7 seas," and then the blue anti-world is shown through the third eye. So, when the Antichrist consciousness says, "Take before me what is mine, the 7 seas of Rye," it is saying that certain people's souls, the unbelievers, belong to it, and it is taking them all to be one with itself. I believe it calls them the 7 seas of Rye because the sister and the wife of Kronos was Rhea, the mother goddess, which by the way is why Anna being Anu, the Sumerian god, made the song Umbrella with Jay-Z, aka the Rain Man, who is the father Rain, otherwise known as Kronos, who is Saturn. Rhea, the wife and sister of Saturn, is a mother goddess who, like Isis, has 7 veils. Since Isis and Rhea mean the same thing, you can say the 7 veils of Rhea, which is simply changed to the 7 seas of Rye. It's speculative, but it seems to make sense. The next part of the song states, "Can you hear me, you peers and privy councillors? I'll stand before you naked to the eye. I will destroy any man who dares abuse my trust. I swear that you'll be mine, the 7 seas of Rye." This part is aimed at those in on it, the privy councillors, aka the elites, and it threatens to destroy anyone who steps out of line and reveals the hidden agenda. That's why it says privy councillors. Privy means sharing in hidden or occult knowledge. The song continues, "Sister, I live and lie for you. Mister, do or die. You are mine, I possess you, belong to you forever." I think the implications here are pretty much obvious. Then it goes on, "Storm the master marathon, I'll fly through. By flash and thunder fire, I'll survive. Then I'll defy the laws of nature and come out alive. Then I'll get you." This basically seems to be a show of confidence on the part of the Antichrist consciousness, that it can get the job done, that it will win despite those opposed to it, and then it will get us. It continues, "Be gone with you, you shod and shaded senators. Give out the good, leave out the bad, evil cries." Okay, so in the eyes of the Antichrist, I would imagine that anybody not towing the line or in on the agenda would, in its eyes, be considered shod and shoddy, because they're not privy to the plan. And the last part of the song says, "I challenge the mighty Titan and his troubadours, and with a smile, I'll take you to the 7 seas of Rye." Well, it could be argued that this refers to the Titans in reference to Zeus and the Olympians in their battle against Kronos and the Titans. The previous line referring to flash and thunder seems to allude to that, as Zeus is god of thunder and lightning. However, this would be self-defeating, as Saturn is the dark side, and it is the dark side that commands the unbelievers. I would say it is ever more likely that by the mighty Titan it is referring to the creator, or the creative spirit. By saying "I challenge the mighty Titan and its troubadours," it is challenging the creative spirit and all those vibrating in that frequency, who it wants to bring into oneness with itself, which is why it ends, "And with a smile, I'll take you to the 7 seas of Rye." As for the flash and thunder, in the New Testament, Luke 10:18, Christ says, "I saw Satan fall like a lightning flash from heaven." Given that Satan also seeks to challenge the mighty Titan, perhaps this particular quote has something to do with it. It's also noteworthy that the flaming sword, or the way of the lightning on the Tree of Life, means from spirit into matter, an outside spiritual force or an entity coming through the third eye or the Stargate into the 7 chakras, in other words, the 7 seas of Rye. Now, check out what Freddie Mercury is wearing in the 7 seas of Rye video. There's clearly something esoteric in operation here. Here is David Bowie sporting the lightning flash, who, by the way, is well acquainted with the Kabbalah and with Aleister Crowley, and there's a song about Crowley and the Golden Dawn. Here's Barack Obama with the lightning flash. If you follow the work of Michael Tessarian, you'll be aware that the roots of what the elite practice lies in Atenism, with Atenism and the cult of Aten or Atom. Basically, the cult of Aten is where the elites of today have their roots, and the fraternities like Freemasonry, etc., are all in truth Atenists. The eye on the chief cornerstone is that of Aten, and based on logic and intuition, we can conclude that these people are in tune with the dark side of illumination, the demonic, if you will. Their god can be called Aten just as accurately as it can be called Adonai, Lucifer, Baphomet, because in the end they are all references to the collective consciousness, which is a dualistic or binary consciousness in nature, i.e. the good and the evil on the male and the female. They see it as an equation that needs to be balanced, both the yin and the yang, and they take it upon themselves to do this, using us. So in essence, as far as they're concerned, they're gods. The number for our androgynous collective consciousness is 10. In fact, Aten literally means 10 and is a sun god, hence 10 Downing Street with its sun symbolism on the door. Lucifer and the 10 are one and the same, as evidenced once again in Luke 10:18, where Jesus said, "I watched Lucifer fall from heaven like a flash of lightning." Now, this is really a Kabbalistic reference, as the lightning refers to the descent of light through the 10 Sephirah on the Tree of Life. So from 10 to 1. The number 1 is 01 when portrayed correctly, because it comes from nothing and it returns to nothing. So when started from 1 and ended at 10, you get 0110. Also worth mentioning is the fact that binary code uses only 0s and 1s. So of course 9 looks like a 1 attempting to return back to a 0. The next number would be 10, and this represents the cycle coming full circle from 01 to 10, which explains why 11 is the next number and the master vibration, because numerologically 0110 equals 11. This explains why 9/11 happened in 01. From 9 to 11 represents the cycle coming full circle back to 01, or you could say back to square one. Now, Aten, the androgynous or hermaphroditic god, ruled over a pantheon of gods called the Nine, which is due to the fact that he was 10, or the 10th Sephirah, and was worshipped, or perhaps one and the same as the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten, who is portrayed as hermaphroditic in nature for this reason. Basically, Akhenaten and Aten were one and the same. The lightning flash, Lucifer falling from heaven like a lightning flash, is Aten. So Lucifer and Aten are interchangeable. Akhenaten, whose cult of Aten spawned the elite fraternities of today, worshipped, or was at one with, the dark side of illumination, or Lucifer. This is what Atenism is. They serve the dark side of the sun or of light, Antichrist consciousness. So, bearing all this in mind, look at who became President of the United States after 9/11 had happened under Bush. All credit goes to Freeman for bringing this to the forefront. Barak in Hebrew is lightning, O is from, and Obama means the heavens. So Barack Obama literally means lightning from the heavens. Here's Lady Gaga, who in her manifesto of Little Monsters states that it is their prolific nature, her fans that is, the Little Monsters, that both creates and procures what will later be perceived as the kingdom. Interesting, considering that the kingdom refers to oneness with the Antichrist consciousness. Now, Lady Gaga took her name from the Queen song Radio Gaga. The video to this song contains imagery from the Fritz Lang 1927 film Metropolis. This film is set in a dystopian nightmare future where there is a ruling class called the managers and a slave class called the workers. In this autocratic society, the ruler operates from a building called the New Tower of Babel. And if you watched Appledore, you'll know that the Tower of Babel refers to the middle pillar on the Tree of Life. In other words, activation of our 7 chakras via the rising of the Kundalini in order to open the third eye. You'll also be aware that the Antichrist seeks to rule from the pinnacle of the tower, aka the third eye. So this is all metaphorical in that it symbolises oneness with the Antichrist consciousness. In other words, the kingdom. The film features an insane genius who builds a robot that can be made in the image of any human being. Notice the inverted pentagram. What I believe this really alludes to is transhumanism and soul transfer from human to machine. While that may not necessarily be consistent with the film in terms of the plot, the imagery of the human melding with the machine certainly conveys this subliminally. And if you understand that films are designed specifically for this purpose, then it is easy to see that such imagery is seeding our subconscious with the transhumanist theme. So this film is the intended future of the Antichrist, as the series The Industry so accurately conveyed. The film has been used by all number of industry artists: Madonna, Beyonce, Whitney Houston, Lady Gaga, the list goes on. The mad scientist in the film has a mechanical hand, and if you remember the Stargate spell from Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5, the mechanical hand comes out of the Stargate. Now you know why. As usual, the whole idea of Metropolis is to use us to create this nightmare future, hence why they keep using it in the entertainment industry. It is one giant spell. Now, returning to the Radio Gaga video, we can decode this quite easily. To begin with, we have a pyramid shadow. Fair enough, no big deal, but noteworthy is the blackness that engulfs it. There is various imagery from the film Metropolis of the workers in their regimented existence. All is black and white until a family is shown and colour sets in. The family are wearing bizarre masks of some kind. And if you're familiar with Jeff Grubb's notion of dark ecstasy, this imagery is indicative of that. Queen is shown flying around Metropolis, once again in black and white, and the Tower of Babel is shown. In the next scene, colour is restored. Freddie Mercury is wearing red and black, in a completely white environment. The combination of these 3 colours, red, white and black, is a common theme in Satanism. However, this combination predates Satanism, the traditional yin to Christianity's yang sense of the word. This colour combination was used in ancient Egypt, which was divided into 2 halves, the black land and the red land, and before this in the Far East. It is, in the system of Nadi Yoga, a representation of the 3 main nadis of the human soul, which are the channels for the Kundalini energy. Ida is black and represents yin, and Pingala is red and represents yang, whereas Sushuma is white. In short, this is an alchemical transmutation to achieve the Godhead, aka illumination. This Dusk Till Dawn soundtrack album features the black and the red, and also the gold representing illumination. Here's Darth Maul from Star Wars, who is of the dark side of the Force. This is Marilyn Manson's symbol, again with the lightning bolt of 777. The Nazis were very fond of this particular combination, as evidenced here. Dracula is known for his black clothes and red cape. Not surprising, considering vampires are symbolic of the alchemical process of death rebirth. Here's Michael Jackson's Blood on the Dance Floor. As you can see, the dance floor is in reality the Freemasonic checkerboard floor. Interestingly, MJ's memorial service was held on 7/7, and here is the logo of his record label, Kingdom Entertainment. Now, we know the significance of that particular word, although keep in mind there are in fact two kingdoms, one of the Christ, one of the Antichrist. Again, with Dusk Till Dawn, the red and the black theme, along with zigzags, reminiscent of the Way of the Lightning. Here's Santa, aka Satan, with the red, white and black. The Process Church. Note the cube vortex symbol. The four horsemen of the apocalypse and the Book of Revelations have a red, white and black colour theme. Anyway, now we have firmly established the relevance of the red, black and the white colour theme, we can continue with the Radio Gaga video. Freddy walks through the Stargate, and this next scene operating machinery from the Metropolis film. And the machinery is a kind of clock-like device. And remember that Father Time is of course Saturn. Following this, Queen are on the all-white stage wearing red and black. And the stage appears to pay homage to the M machine from the film. The M machine stands for Molech in the film, and is where the workers are forced to toil away. Molech was the Phoenician Canaanite god to whom child sacrifices were made. That would be Saturn, in other words. This practice of passing the child through the fire is in actuality one of alchemy. The idea of the fire was not, as the Canaanites seem to believe, literal. It was for the sun, representing man, and the woman, represented by the moon, to be transmutated by the fire. In other words, the red, the black and the white, to transmutate lead to gold. The fire is the Philosopher's Stone. The personification of the Philosopher's Stone is Hermes, aka Mercury, hence Freddie Mercury. So Queen stand on the stage of the Molech as the homogenized workers clap rhythmically or perhaps ritualistically along. Mercury sings the lines, "Radio, what's new? Radio, someone still loves you." Well, radio comes from the Latin radius and means ray. Deus is actually a Spanish word meaning God. This can be interpreted Ray God. Ray is Egyptian sun god Ray, also pronounced Ra, meaning the line "Radio, someone still loves you" can become sun god, someone still loves you. Also interesting is that the outstretched arms could allude to the V from LVX, which is Latin for light. We see the L in the earlier scene. Note that L is Saturn, aka time. We will see the X shortly. Note also the Z symbols on the wall. The Eos Sigrun of Death Rebirth, aka alchemy. Next up we have, once again, the theme of books coming to life. As I previously said, this is indicative of a spell. The very first image is from the song Bohemian Rhapsody, as is the second. Freddie Mercury's arms are folded into the X formation. So we have the full LVX played out in the video. The first image shows the fire, as in the Philosopher's Stone, and in another we see Freddie wearing the black and white of duality. Then from black to white into a dove. The dove is the symbol of the goddess and symbolises crossing the rainbow bridge, or the Antikarana. In other words, making the transformation from duality to oneness. Note also that the idol of Molech featured 7 compartments, and the second compartment was always the turtle dove. Next we see the fire of purification, again, which you must pass through to achieve this godhead in alchemy. This is followed by an image from the movie Flash Gordon. For which Queen recorded the song Flash. And next we have the lightning flash, aka the way of the lightning or the flaming sword. Continuing on, much the same imagery is flashed again in much quicker succession, including a few added images of Mercury forming the L on the clock again, as well as the X. Following this we have the line, "You add the time, you add the power, you've yet to have your finest hour, radio." The time and the power is held in this dimension by Saturn. It is likely that the sun god referred to is therefore the black sun, Saturn. The radio, shown in the video, then emanates light to confirm that it does indeed represent the sun god. Here we see the transhumanist ideal of merging man and machine together. This is the agenda of the Antichrist consciousness, and we don't have to call it that. We can call it the psychopathic consciousness, if you like, or the ego consciousness. Whatever the name, that is what it has in store for those who go through this alchemical transmutation and merge with it, or become at one with it. Which is why you see Freddie Mercury merging with the robot. Once again, after this, there is a scene where a giant wall cracks open in the form of a lightning bolt, in the midst of some kind of calamity that appears to be unfolding, and then it ends with the words, "Thanks to Metropolis." I thought it worth mentioning that in this Nickelodeon picture there is the lightning bolt, but to break the word down, Nick could be the red, white and black wearing Saint Nick, aka Santa, who is Saturn. L is obviously Saturn, and Odeon would likely be Odin, aka the black sun, Saturn. So it literally translates as Saturn, Saturn, Saturn. Considering Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun, you could translate that as 666. Getting back to Queen, I find this album cover particularly disturbing. Here we have a giant robot of some kind holding within its hand dead human beings, possible sacrifices. The robot has blood on its other hand, which appears to be the blood of the dead man, which is in his right hand. It would seem this ominous depiction alludes to the transhumanist agenda. So many stars within the entertainment and music industry are proselytising to the masses, in an albeit symbolic fashion. Here's the album cover for a kind of magic, and we have our old friends the blue beings making their return. Anti-world or anti-Christ consciousness represented by the blue or the negative image, the polar opposite. This theme shows up again in the video for One Vision, giving us a clue about whose one vision that might be. Keeping in mind the one world order and the new age one world religion that is in the Antichrist pipeworks, I find these lyrics interesting to say the least. One man, one goal, one mission, one heart, one soul, just one solution, one flash of light, one God, one vision. Remember, Lucifer is the flash of light, the lightning from heaven. One flesh, one bone, one true religion, one voice, one hope, one real decision. No wrong, no right, I'm gonna tell you there's no black and no white. Okay, so considering this is exactly what this Antichrist consciousness wants for us, to leave the black and the white area and become at one with it, this makes perfect sense. No blood, no stain, all we need is one worldwide vision, one flesh, one bone, one true religion, and it basically carries on with the same theme throughout the song. Now, this is not the only Queen song with the one world theme. It's important to note that this song, A Kind of Magic, was written for the film Highlander, which is about immortals and was promoted with the tagline, "There can be only one." story short, in the film Highlander, the idea is that all the immortals are competing for what they call the prize, which essentially means that the one surviving immortal will become at one with the universe. So, in other words, illumination. Now, getting back to a kind of magic, naturally the lyrics of the song are going to reflect the theme of the film. However, the multi-dimensionality of consciousness is not to be written off. The face value interpretation of the song and the subconscious meaning of the song are, although different, paradoxically both true. That is to say that, like with most songs or films containing a hidden level of meaning, the artist may write the song with no hidden intent, but the forces working through that artist will layer the song with a hidden meaning that the artist is unaware of. That is not to say that all of the artists are uncognizant of the hidden meaning, but many are, and remain just as blind to that fact as their listeners, having no idea that the song has been placed in their mind by something that has an agenda. As far as who is aware and who is not, I'll leave that up to you to decide. But that being said, here are some of the lyrics from A Kind of Magic worth highlighting. One dream, one soul, one prize, one goal, one golden glance of what should be, one shaft of light that shows the way. No mortal man can win this day. The bell that rings inside your mind is challenging the doors of time. The waiting seems eternity, the day will dawn of sanity. Is this a kind of magic? There can be only one. This rage that lasts 1,000 years will soon be done. This flame that burns inside of me, I'm hearing secret harmonies. Okay, so again, the theme of oneness and a new dawn. One soul, one shaft of light that shows the way are reoccurring. It's axiomatic. No mortal man can win this day. Yeah, because our dualistic collective consciousness is fighting a bipolar war through us. Christ, our natural consciousnness, versus its polar opposite that wants to override that natural state and bring us into oneness with it eternally. Again, it's the 9, the number of wholeness, completion and immortality, and the 11, which is the number of both Christ and Antichrist consciousness. From duality to oneness, no more black and white. The alchemical transformation from lead to gold, or in the case of the Antichrist consciousness, from lead to blue, which is why in the video to the song, Freddie uses magic to alchemically transmutate the tramps into band members, while wearing the black and red cape, and a bunch of blue beings show up. Now, this is a symbol used by Queen on a few of their albums, the winged or feathered serpent. This could also be some variation of the death rebirth phoenix bird, since it appears to have risen from the fire, meaning that it is in fact Quetzalcoatl, the winged serpent, and the winged serpent sits on the letter Q, as if to confirm this fact. Within the Q sits a crown, not only a symbol of Saturn, but of Kepha, on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Kepha, the 10th Sephirah, is interchangeable with Malkuth, the 1st Sephirah. This again relates to the 9 being the last number before the cycle returns to 01. And 10 is of course 01 numerologically. Kepha and Malkuth are on the middle pillar, aka Solomon's Temple, polarity. And going from Kepha down to Malkuth is of course the way of the lightning, or the flaming sword, the 777. So it is the Antichrist consciousness entering Solomon's Temple to sit at the pinnacle, which is exactly where Quetzalcoatl is sitting on the cover of 7 Seas of Rye, meaning he is at the pinnacle of the 7 Seas of Rye, in other words the 7 chakras, or Solomon's Temple.